Yikes. The questions are just to get to know me better, right?
Sure.
Okay.
And I might throw in some secret surprise.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, right.
Yeah.
Get to know you better. Where did we see this one before?
The Larry King show, when he asks his guests pop quizzes.
Knew.
Yeah, if you only knew.
Larry King live stuff. Yeah. So we saw some fun ones there. Yeah. And then where else? Off camera with Sam.
Yeah. Sam Jones.
Yeah. Those are some good ones. And then the Lad Bible, we saw some good ones there. So kind of pilfering a flavor from all.
Hey, I'm the first to admit that I steal all the best ideas I can find.
And so we're cobbling them together for a bit of get to know you better.
Yes.
Thank you. And let's start out with, what was your first car?
Ooh, my first car was a 1962 Meteor. I bought it off a friend of my dad's for $200, and it was 80% Bondo deep blue, and the trunk was big enough you could skin a moose in it. But it was a 4-door, and it was about 25 feet long.
What color?
Dark blue.
Okay.
Because it was spray painted over. So it was, a classic beginner car.
I had orange in my head for some reason.
It was awesome. It was it lasted forever, drove forever, and it was quite the entertaining first automobile. Went to a drive-in with it with my friends, and there were like 6 of us in there or something.
And that's our cat.
That's Larry. Our cat cue that demanding food probably.
Attention. Messing with stuff.
Yeah.
He's looking at eyeballing some glassware.
He's got his own bounce test going on, so he wants to see what.
He heard bounce board when we were testing out the new bounce that we got. All right, we'll see how long we can go with him participating. What is a superpower you wish you had?
Ooh, superpower I wish I had would be, I don't know what to call it, impermeability? It would be the superpower where nothing happens to me outside. So I can go into a fire and not be burned. I can go into a toxic area and not die from toxicity. So that way I can be like a hyper super police fireman guy who can help people and rescue people.
Interesting. What have been some of your favorite roles or your favorite role to date?
Some of my favorite roles. The most recent one that comes to mind, which I had a lot of fun, it was a huge challenge, was playing in The Tempest, Prospero. I got to play Prospero, and it was a great challenge because it was Shakespeare, and I haven't done Shakespeare in a long time, so it was a wonderful way to brush off the skills and get back into the bard. And also half the cast was deaf and half was hearing. So we spent about 4 weeks learning how to work with each other, learning each other's limits and capabilities, and just learning the culture of the deaf. It was quite shocking to me how similar it is and how different it is and how many challenges they faced every day and still do today. So it was a great, huge learning curve. And they were the most fearless actors I've worked with in a long time. They feared nothing. They were going to try anything, anywhere. And meanwhile, the hearing actors like myself included go, I don't know if I want to. And they were like, yeah, sure, we're up there. And they were like, boom, I'm here. And it was just awesome and inspiring.
So that was a theater role, one of your favorite roles. How about a favorite TV role?
Yes, a favorite film role I had was it had to be playing Officer Rich in Insomnia, because I got to work with Al Pacino, Hilary Swank, and Robin Williams, and Christopher Nolan, and I got to work with those guys and Jay Brazeau. You get throw in some Canadian content, but I got with my idol Al Pacino. Got to be in some scenes with him and be around him and watch him work, and Robin Robin Williams, got to see him work and just how astute he was. He was a student of the craft. That's why I have so much respect for him, not only for his improv skills and his comedic abilities, but when he was on set and he was as an actor, watching him watch Al and everyone else work, he was stock still like a hawk, just watching, taking everything in, absorbing. As soon as they yelled cut, he'd fire off 3 or 4 funny things, and the whole crew would start laughing, and everyone would move on, and Robin would be, making everybody laugh and stuff. But as soon as they yelled rolling, he was stock still and just observant, and I was just so impressed by that. And we got to work with Al and got to throw peanuts at Hilary Swank, and it was an awesome. How many 6 weeks or something like that? I was in Vancouver. I had to do a self-drive because there was a strike on of bus services. So they rented me a car, and I had to drive myself to and from work. So I got to go all over the place, golf, and drove up to Squamish for the first time, and loved the little town here, and we did a lot of shooting in Squamish. It was awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And so now we've covered theater, and there's
some cat action going on. Larry.
Is he messing with those cards?
He was. Now he's moved on to go see what else he can knock down. He's going, why aren't they coming? Why aren't they coming?
Excuse me.
You're going to vinegar bottle him?
No.
No.
We don't do stuff like that.
There he goes. He gets it.
He just sees it. He knows it's coming. Get off of there. It's not even near him.
There he goes. All right.
Good Lord. Shooting with cats.
Shooting with cats. That's a whole other series.
Shooting at home is a whole other. So we have said, we have talked about now your favorite role. Larry, what's your favorite role? Knocking shit off the counter. So theater, film, how about a TV role?
Oh, TV role. What should I have fun? It's got to be the Davis. Playing Davis in live and in movie form, and also animated. So we got to play all three, all the cast were the same all through that. So it was great to play with my friends again, and it just the writers got funnier and wilder as the animation went on. They were unleashed, so there was a lot of crazy things going on, and Sasquatch and an alien fighting, or a unicorn and a Sasquatch fighting. It was like, yeah, sure, why not? All they have to do is draw it. They don't have to build it. So yeah, so it was quite fun. It was quite fun being in the studio with the gang.
And then you got to do it live on location, live on set for the live series.
Yeah.
And then the film, and
we
then
did a film.
Animated. That's quite something.
Yeah, it is quite something to know that I'll be slim and pretty forever in the animated version. And we also did a live table read one time, and I think it was for a charity or something, but we did a live table read in Toronto at some theater, and we sold out. It sold out really quickly, and we had diehard fans fly in from like Minnesota. One person was saying, somebody came in from Florida because they heard about it and said, well, I got to get up to Toronto. So they came and saw us read a script live, and that was exciting. That was fun.
So for anybody watching, let's assure them we will dive much deeper into Corner Gas and Dog River on another. So I'll move on to some other questions. And actually, before I move on, I'm curious. Throwing peanuts at Hilary Swank before we move on. Why? Because
we were shooting a scene of Insomnia inside the bar at the Chief in Squamish. And it was a scene of us cops sitting around the corner, and there was 3 guys, and we're all, yipping, yapping at each other. And Hillary joins us, the only female cop in the team. And we're sitting there, and we're kibitzing and cracking jokes, and she's there, and she went to me. She says, "Hey guys, I'm just one of the team. So if you want to do whatever," and I said, "You mind if I throw a peanut in your direction?" She goes, "Sure, go ahead." So I fired a couple of empty shells at her, and then so she was a gracious player. That's what I found about working with Al and Robin and Hillary was that they're all Oscar winners, but they're so devoted to the craft, and they're just normal, shy people and just focused on their work. They're just, masters at their craft. And it was great to, I could talk to them as peers and they were like totally open to it. So it was nice. It was nice to see that. And as people put them up on pedestals and idolization and stuff. And yeah, they're worthy of that, but they're just people and they just love doing what they're doing and they're fun to play with.
So because we haven't talked about this so far, but we've been talking about acting, stage, film, TV.
Right.
What drew you to acting?
Ooh, what drew me to acting? Actually, it was a kind of a fluke, luck of the draw, because I've been incredibly shy my whole life, especially in school settings and stuff, and shyness was always my big thing. Speaking in front of people it never went well for me. So when I moved I started in Kamloops, and unemployment at the time was an incredible 17%, and my only skills I had was being a rugby player, photographer, and a tree planter. So 3 jobs that didn't really have a huge demand in Kamloops. So and I lived right down the hill from college, Caribou College it was called, and I went, you know what? I'm going to go check this out. I'm going to go get some education and get a higher learning. So I went in and enrolled and went through the calendar and I said, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this. I didn't have any idea about prerequisites or programs to get a degree, any of that stuff. I just went in to take what interested me. So I took sports history, biology class, and I had a whole... Larry?
Try to hold that thought. I'm going to sneak through here.
Buddy.
Larry, you are really testing our love for you.
Really, really skilled at being annoying.
And I'm going to add to the list, feed cats early.
Yeah. Feed cats
Got it?
early. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to hand me his dish?
Yeah.
Is it empty?
Pretty much. I mean, a little bit. And I accidentally, I moisturized it this morning just because of a habit. So.
I'm just going to add to this. I'll just leave this going and we'll get back.
Oh, he's trying to knock my glasses off and everything. You don't do that. Come here.
Here.
Your food is coming.
Here. I'll give you the food.
Okay, I got the cat.
Here you go.
There we go. See? I know it's coming. I'm coming. You're coming with me. You're coming with me. Here, you take that thing. And I'm just leaving it open for now.
He's what?
His food feeder open. I'll just start at the beginning again.
Sure, or I can cut in between if
Okay.
you remember what you said already.
Yeah.
Because cats happen.
Yeah. So I was living downhill from Caribou College, and I decided to get some education. So I went into the office, the registrar's office, grabbed the schedule and enrolled myself, and I flipped through their calendar and I took this, I took sports history, I took stuff that interested me, that I was curious about. I didn't have any idea about prerequisites or requirements for a degree. None of that stuff was in my consciousness. I was just taking things I liked that sounded fun. So sports history, biology, I took an English class, but they wouldn't let me in because my marks from high school were too low. I was about 22 around then, so I was out of high school for quite a while. And so I looked at my schedule and I went, oh, I got a hole in my schedule to get a full semester. So I found an introduction to acting class, and I went, be a fun, easy class to do, easy credit. So I signed up for it. And that's when I had the good fortune of having as my instructor was Dr. David Edwards, who was he's a master PhD acting teacher, an actor and former performer before he hurt his back. But he was my teacher, and he brought so much joy, curiosity, infectiousness for the craft. I was like, wow, this is fun. We did exercises that made me face my shyness, where we had to stand and look at the other person opposite us for the first time, standing there looking at each other, and we're looking at each other uncomfortably in each other's eyes, and he goes, okay, now turn away. So we turned away from him, so we're back to back, and he goes, can you answer this question about the person you were just looking at? And we're going, okay. He goes, what color was their shirt? No idea. I was just so intent on looking at them and didn't pay any attention to their shoes or if their coats or anything. And those are the questions he was asking, because it was an exercise in observation and learning how to use your eye skills, your eyesight and stuff. So it was like, and then I had to speak in front of the class and stuff. So I was learning how to conquer my shyness. And then we did a one-act play. That was a year-end project. I got cast in a one-act play. And that was when I had the epiphany at the end of our first night, sold out theater in the Black Box in Kamloops, and we got a standing ovation for our play. And I stood with my castmates and I looked around, and I had that epiphany where everything just went kind of wobbly, and I just kind of went, wow. And I said, this is it. This is what I was meant to do. I felt comfortable, I felt calm, and it was grounded, and I went, this is it. So I went and asked Dr. David the next day. I went and asked Dr. David, what do I have to do to make a living at this? Like, how do I make a living at this? What's the secret? And he said, get the best training you can get. And that led me to the University of Alberta and the BFA acting program, which was just more tools to add to my toolbox. But that's what got me in. I got bit by the bug, and then I fell in love with it, and then I knew it was for me.
And for anyone that doesn't know Caribou College, or where is it?
Oh, Caribou College is in Kamloops. It's now called Thompson Rivers University. It's TRU. And so it's in Kamloops. It's a great college because I found it was the best place for me because it wasn't a huge metropolis center. It was all people from smaller towns in BC and northern BC came into Kamloops to go to university. So they were all like-minded people like myself, all small-town kids. So being friends and making connections was easy because everyone was the same background as me, coming from a small town, small community. So everyone was upfront and honest and nice and cheerful and stuff. There was no cliques, none of that high school stuff you get in a big city or anything like that. It was just awesome young adults getting on in the world together.
And I'll ask you to take it just a little further to remember some of the people that have shown up for some of your lives from other places in the world. So can you really get specific to bring in Kamloops, BC, Canada? Like it's in Canada, in the province of British Columbia.
Oh yeah, okay.
In a city called Kamloops.
Yeah.
That's sort of the interior. So
yeah.
we can talk about it, but just that.
Yeah.
Lots of people that will be watching may not be familiar with Kamloops,
Yeah.
so that was all. And then we'll talk more about your other awards and things there.
Yeah.
We'll get into that another time, but I'm gonna go on to another, let me find one. I'm gonna try to throw you a curve.
Oh, here comes a curve.
What is your strangest fan encounter?
My strangest fan encounter. I think, and it's actually, I surprised the fan more than anything because it was in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. We were walking. We were there.
Is that at the mall?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
We're doing some shopping at Portage Place Mall. I had to go pick something up for a hosting gig I was doing in Winnipeg, and they needed something, tie or belt or something like that. Yeah, we went to Harry. Yeah, it was on our way to a Harry Rosen shopathon when. To get some accessories.
Yeah.
But as we were coming up, I saw this guy outside the mall on his phone, and he turned and he was wearing a Corner Gas t-shirt. And I thought it was cool. And so I thought I'd go up to him and just surprise him a little bit. And he was on his phone, very intense in a conversation. I said, "Hey, buddy, nice shirt." And he went, what? And he looked at it. Click. Hey, whoever he was, he hung up on whoever he was talking, got excited, and we were like, "Hey, I was just saying," and he was like, oh my God, it's my favorite show, and hey, let's take a picture. So we took a picture, and he was just very excited, and I just surprised him.
Say goodbye.
No,
there was not even sound, he just slammed, like
Yeah.
his flip phone
Yeah.
just slammed shut.
Yeah, not even a goodbye, just kind of, oh, click, and oh my God, oh my God. And of course he said, you're one of my favorite characters. So. But that was fun. And the other one was when we were walking in Davie Street. That was a strange encounter. We were passing this older lady, very prim and proper. She had her ascot on, and she had a walking stick, and her hair was done up in a bun, kind of ballet. It reminded me of an ex-ballerina, right? She had that stature about her, royalty, regal.
Carriage.
Yeah, and she came striding by, and then she locked eyes and went, oh my God, it's you, oh my God, and oh my God, you're one of my favorites, oh my God, oh. It just totally, the whole facade fell away, and she was just giddy, this giddy young girl she became, and it was quite cute and endearing.
Take a moment for my strangest fan encounter with your fans, which I love. I think the biggest part was getting used to the double takes.
Oh yeah.
And I always thought I had toilet paper hanging out of my pants.
Yeah.
It's like, oh right, they're looking at you.
Yeah.
But remember going to Prince George?
Oh
The
yeah.
bookstore.
That
And we're
late.
off looking at a book. My mom's off talking to the owner of the bookstore, who's an acquaintance of hers. And then next thing you know, oh my God, and she comes over and she basically straight arm, like the Heisman Trophy, Heisman's me out of the way.
Yeah.
And then comes up and wraps her leg around you.
Like she almost climbed me. She was like a little gal, and she was like, "Oh my God, you're my favorite." I'm like, can we get her? Yeah, nice to meet you. Can you get off me?
And then I said,
Nice.
you're gonna have to wrestle me to take him. Oh, I can't. And I just said, well, he's coming home with me. And my mom's standing there agog. She didn't realize, but that was pretty.
Well, this whole fan recognition thing, or people just recognize me from Corner Gas, started very dribs and drabs, very slowly. I remember when I was living in Toronto, I was walking back from the grocery store, and I had 2 bags of groceries, and I'm walking back, and somebody came walking by, going, hey, just pointing and laughing at me, and I was kind of like looking at my fly, make sure it was done up, and going like, what's that? And he goes, and I was like, oh, it must be show related. And then he graduated to, hey, you're that guy from that show. And then it was, hey, Davis. And then it was, and then eventually it became, hey, you're Lorne Cardinal, aren't you? And it was like, yeah. So that progression was pretty awesome.
It's been fun for me. We get to do some really cool things.
And it's surprising.
I have to learn how to not offer you up all the time because I see them looking and I'm like, yes, it is.
And it's surprising where it happens. I remember going to Cape Breton one time to fly, and I was doing an event there, and I flew into Cape Breton, and the security guys, all of a sudden, they saw me, and they stopped me, and I went, oh my God, here I'm going to get all my stuff tossed for some reason. They were like, no, they were just big fans of the show, and I reminded them of the guy they worked with at the airport, and so I ended up taking pictures of me frisking them. While people were going through security, they were like, hey, and do the handcuff one where you can put me in. Okay, guys, sure. Oops. Yeah, it was surprising and fun as well.
Nice. I was thinking of some other ones, but I was thinking of the ones where we had hoped that the people that we encountered would be super fans, and where it didn't bode well or it didn't work out the way that we had hoped. One of them was our first Christmas together when you were speeding, driving my Jeep.
That cop did his job and didn't bite at all, even though I had the DVD out, my 8x10 on the dash. You kind of, hey, maybe you remind, you've seen me in a show. I played a cop too, and he was like, yeah, rip. It happened once to me on the way when I was speeding accidentally down the highway. I had to get to. I was driving in from Toronto, going to Regina for our first day of season 2 or 3 or something like that, and we had a read through that day. And I was leaving. I was still in Manitoba, and I had to get to Regina, and I had about 3 hours to do it. So I was like pedal to the metal, and I got pulled over by a guy, and he came sauntering up, and he, where are you going so fast? And I was going like, sorry, I'm working on this show, and we're having our first read through, and he's looking over, he goes, oh yeah. He goes, yeah, I can let you go if you do one thing. And I go, what's that? And he goes, you just sign this and make it out to Sergeant Harper, and then that'd be awesome. And I went, oh, yeah, okay. He says, hey, I'm heading to Regina too, so just slow her down. If you pass me, I'm going to have to give you a ticket. And I went, yeah, no problem. So I just followed him all the way in.
I'm just going to take a little.
So that's when the being noticed paid off. It was awful nice of him to let me go with a warning. But I did the speed limit the rest of the way, and
Yes.
then I automatically went to buy a radar detector.
We are, I was gonna say, we're not encouraging speeding.
No.
And we're not encouraging the use of radar detectors to avoid
In some provinces,
the law.
it's illegal, like Ontario. But BC, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, it's fine.
Let's just not get into legal
No.
territory, okay?
No, I'm not prescribing anything.
Okay, let's move on. What is a secret talent that you have?
Ooh, jeez.
I've seen a few.
Secret talent. Yeah. Oh, I can do. This entertains my demographic, which is kids from like 3 to 6. It's magic. I do magic. Watch. You ready? They buy that for about a second. Or I take it off and I go. Oh. And they buy that too for about a second.
And you're putting that under talent.
Yeah,
is what
special
you're saying.
talent.
Okay.
Special talent.
Secret talent. Okay. I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
Stick to your day job. Cute. You're very cute. What is the strangest job you've ever had?
Oh, strangest job would be when I was fresh out of acting school and I didn't have a lot of gigs, so I had to, I signed up for a labor force. I had a rugby friend who managed that kind of office, so he set me up I ended up working at a recycling plant in Edmonton. And I got to go in there and sort garbage for the 8 hours that I was there on a conveyor belt: paper, glass, plastic, paper, glass, plastic, and just I was sitting on a conveyor belt, just sorting the stuff as it came scrolling through. And the crew I was working with was quite interesting makeup, because the age range, I was about 30. So I was the only one in that age range. There was high school kids from age 17, 18 working there, and then older, 50 and up, older retirees working there. So that was a very interesting age gap in between, so, kids working there to buy stereos for their cars. I heard one kid say, I'm going to buy a stereo for my car. And then somebody else saying, well, I'm going to put this away for my grandkids in an education fund, their extra money. And I was like, well, that's interesting. But as the garbage was going through the conveyor belt, it was interesting just to see, it was a look at our society, our packaging, the over-packaging that happens as consumers, all the paper that's wasted. And then just seeing things. I pulled out a K-Tel love pack, a double album of K-Tel's love songs, and it was in pristine condition. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I was talking to my guy across me, and I said, wow, this is interesting. You must see a lot of interesting things. And he looks at me and he goes, it's all paper, glass, and plastic to me. And he went on. I went, oh, okay. So my archaeological curiosity was being itched.
Let's see here. I heard some of your good stuff. I'm going to come back, but I wanted to know what is one of your least favorite memories on stage, TV, film? I'll go through what on stage. What's one of your least favorite memories of stage?
Well, it's a bit of a hard one. The least favorite is when I was violently ill. I think I had a flu or a stomach flu or something like that. I had a very high temperature. I was sweating. I was nauseous. But the show must go on. So you only stop when you're on death's door. Is the only time you cancel a show. But I was just one cast member in I think there was 4 or 5 of us. So I thought I could coast by because I had a bucket close to me. I said maybe I won't have to go on stage like I did before and just come in for my scenes. And the stage manager said, no, you've got to go the way we blocked it and rehearsed it. I went, okay. So my character was playing, I was playing a smaller character in this play. And I had one scene at the top, and then I sat on stage at a bar table in a seat, and then the lights went black in my playing area and the rest of the play carried on but I had to stay there in kind of a frozen position until our scene came up again, our playing space came up again, which was like, I think it was about 35 minutes later, we came back on to finish out our scene. And I was just sitting there, much like this, arms crossed, leaning against the back of my chair and sweating profusely and just using every ounce of my will not to vomit, because it was live theater and there's people right there and my bucket was right there. And I go, well, if I got to go, I'm going to go right here, and then I'm running off stage that way. But luckily I was able to hold back until the halftime break, and I was able to take care of my business off stage and then get back for the second act. But it was a brutal run. Yeah. That was one of the worst ones. The other one was when I was playing Gandalf in YPT's Young People's Theatre in Toronto. We're doing The Hobbit, and I played Gandalf. And we had this ramp set up, where we went up the Misty Mountain, and we were wearing masks. I had my hair long and grayed up and had my walking stick. And I remember I had to pick up one of the elves who was injured in the story, and he jumped into my arms when I wasn't ready. And I heard some snap, crackle, pop in my lower back, and I went, oh, and then my muscles spazzed up, my back spazzed up, and I couldn't straighten up, and I had a hard time getting off. I threw him, carried him off stage, threw him, and then I just went, my back is pooched. I don't know what I can do, but we finished the show, and I was just moving very slowly. I said, I can't move any faster than I am, and they were just kind of working around me kind of thing, and then, because it was a 2-show day, the next show, we made some modifications where I didn't have to push anything because I couldn't. And then I went and saw my chiro, and he snapped me up and some muscle relaxants for the next day or so. And then, but again, show keeps going on, you adapt, but it was a very painful 2-show day.
How about instead of keeping it in least favoritesville, I can come back for the other stuff, but I wanted to ask you, what is a food that you hate?
Ooh, there's not a lot of food I do not like. However, I would say no to caviar. That does not interest me at all. I would say no thanks. I don't care for the fishy taste and that kind of thing. It's not a delicacy. It's like, no thanks. Oh.
Let's see. What would you do if you weren't in showbiz?
Well, if I wasn't in showbiz, what would I be doing? I think I would have pursued my teaching degree. I think I would have been, I'd probably settled into the high school range of teaching social studies and theater and coaching some rugby team sport or something like that. I think that's where I would have been headed.
And for those that don't already know this, you were already in teaching. How many years into that program were you before you made the switch?
I did 2 years of a 4-year degree program for teaching. And I did my student teaching in a couple of schools. I actually went and did student teaching at a school I went to as a kid, in an old neighborhood of mine, and it was very interesting to go back there and see the school and have all these memories come rushing back, and not a lot of them good, but it was a very interesting experience. And I have nothing but respect for teachers who are in the system and dedicated to what they do. It is also a craft, and I have nothing but respect for them. And I'm lucky. I've had a lot of good teachers in my life that helped shape me and send me to where I am today. So I'm always grateful for a good teacher.
And what took you away from that program? You were a couple years into it, on track to become a teacher. What changed the course?
I was in part of my teaching curriculum. I took theater as a minor, so I was doing theater classes, a couple of minor classes as part of my degree, and one of them was working as a stage crew. So I had to hang lights for another production going on as part of my class, learn how to hang lights. So I was hanging lights in the black box theater, and I'm up on this like 12-foot ladder, and all of a sudden I feel this rattling, and I'm like, well, what the hell? Who is? And I look down, and it's Tom Peacock, who was the head of the BFA acting program, and he was shaking my ladder because he's looking up at me, going, "Hey, the applications are out. You make sure that you get in there and put an application in." And then he stormed off, and I was kind of like, okay. Kind of that was weird. And the guy I was working with, the guy who were hanging lights together, he was manning the ladder. He goes, "Okay, bye, Tom." Apparently he auditioned like twice, and Tom didn't even recognize him or call him by his name or anything. So
for the
he's like,
BFA acting program.
Yeah.
Because what you've shared, it's very competitive.
It's highly competitive, and the audition process to get in is quite. It was quite something. I've never been through anything like that, and it was. It was intimidating, but that's a story for another time.
Yeah, actually saying that, because I know like the rigorous process and how competitive, we'll definitely get into that. Because I think classical theater training too, there's lots that I'm curious about.
But that's what took me out of the education field, because I applied to the BFA and I was lucky enough to get in on a waiting list.
And just for clarification, because I know I've asked you this before because of the chronology of stuff, how many years was your ladder shaken, or how that you were standing on a ladder that started shaking by Tom Peacock? How many years after your epiphany with Dr. David back in Kamloops? How long in between? Because your ladder you were on was in Edmonton, Alberta, at the University of Alberta. Yeah. So how many years would you say in between?
I would say it would be 2 years at the max. It was 2 years from when I found my love for acting, and I was in Kamloops. Taking my curtain call, and then I moved back to Edmonton, transferred into the education program, and then a little while later, Tommy rattled my ladder.
Nice.
And and then I followed that because that's what I felt like I wanted to do.
And this one I know is going to be a little bit.
Math?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe.
Okay.
Where did you grow up?
Oh, geez, math indeed. Where did I grow up? A lot of different places. Originally started in Sucker Creek First Nations in northern Alberta. It's on the west end of Lesser Slave Lake, small little reserve there. And then we moved to Jussard, which is just further down the lake. That's where my mom's people were from. So we lived there for a little bit. And then we moved to Edmonton. Oh, no, before we moved to Edmonton, we moved to Carameus in southern British Columbia. We were there for, I don't know, I was very young. But I remember BC, being in BC and loving it. I saw my first hummingbird there, and I thought it was a giant bee, and I ran screaming. I went, oh my God.
Is that near Coston?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So.
Carameus and Coston are like neighbors.
Okay.
And and then we moved back to Alberta, and then went to Edmonton. I think we ended up in Edmonton, and did most of my schooling there. And so that's about a roundabout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moved around.
Oh, we lived out in Prince George for a while too. My dad was working out there for a bit. So I remember, but I was very young for that. I was like maybe 4 years old. It was before I started school, so. But I have vivid memories of being in Prince George with my brother Louis, who had tormented me, and we went on a lot of adventures together.
And we did the math, I believe, on it before, that you said you went to 10 different schools from kindergarten to high school around all these different places. I went to 11. We talk a bit about it in that. I'll put it on the end credits or somewhere of that chat we have about things like that.
A lot of different schools, a lot of different schools, a lot of new kid in school experiences, and
Yeah. Well, this one, I will stay a little sort of in the same vein-ish, is have you played sports and which ones? Or what you want to focus on, what sports?
Well, we played a lot of sports, not a lot of organized, like growing up back home in Sucker Creek, we were surrounded by all our relatives, all our cousins. And so we ended up playing a lot of hockey, frozen hockey with, a can was our puck, or a frozen horse turd we could find that would last. We'd have a whole bunch in case we ran out. We didn't actually get a real ball, or it was very rare we'd actually get a rubber puck that we managed to hold on to before it got chipped up and stuff. But I remember we'd have big, massive games, and then we'd always end them in a big fight. We'd just do pylons and fighting each other and throwing each other around on the ice and stuff. And then we'd do the same thing with baseball. We'd have we'd had enough guys and cousins around to have two teams, and we'd play baseball all day, and that was fun. So I learned how to catch. I learned how not to catch. Don't catch like this with your glove down, because the ball comes up and can break your nose.
And the sport I associate you with the most, because it's the one I hear you talk about and watch highlights, and you're on. What about that sport?
Yeah. My favorite sport as I got older, I started playing in high school. I first exposed to the game of rugby, which I fell in love with in high school. Actually, I came back for an extra semester in high school just to play rugby, just so I can be eligible to play again. So it's an awesome sport. It's the ultimate team sport, and it came along at the right point in my life where I was taking all that aggression and being able to vent it in an athletic way, and it was an intricate game. Once you get over the crashing and bashing, there's actually some strategy involved and some rules, which I had a referee sit down with me one time and share a pint, and he explained the rules, because I'd played a lot of games. I'd had a couple of years at this point under my belt, and I was kind of fearless kind of thing. I just launched myself at things, but I kept getting calls on the same thing, offside, and I never knew exactly what that meant. So I had this nice referee come in and sit down with me and explain what rule I kept breaking. Okay. He says, I can see you playing, you're playing hard, you're playing good, but you keep doing this, so obviously you don't know. So he explained this rule and that rule, the offside, and all these things, and I just kind of went, oh,
so
okay.
What grade did you start in then about?
I started in, I think it was grade 11 or 12. I think I started in 12, and then I came back for a half semester to play more. So.
And then how long did you play? I know some of the answer, but for people that are answering, how long did you end up playing for?
I started when I was like 17, and then I started playing for the Druids in Edmonton, Strathcona Druids. And they were my club, and I played with them until I moved out of the province. So that was in total, I stopped playing. My last game was when I was, let me do the math here, 2008. So that would be 44? Yeah, I think I was about 44 years old when I played my last rugby game, and I was playing with the Regina Condors, because we were doing a lot of corner gas work, and I found a rugby club there, and I started playing with those guys, and we made it to the city finals. We won the city finals for second division. I was playing on that team, and then we went into the provincial finals to play against Lloydminster, and that's when I played my last game, and I came to a realization that, I was tired of chasing 20-year-olds, because they were always like a step and a half ahead of me, and I couldn't catch them, and then on one tackle, I tackled the guy who went into the Saskatchewan baked earth and bounced my knee off the hard pan, and I felt something, I wouldn't say tear, but it was a bit of a pain. And then I put some ice on it after the game, and then it just got worse and worse. Then I found out I tore my meniscus, and then I didn't play after that. It was my last game, but it was in the city. It was a provincial championship, so it was a good note to end on. We didn't win, but it was a great game to end on.
And just curious, because I've seen that picture, which to me is just like I wouldn't want to tangle with you
Yeah.
in that picture from the World Masters. Where
Yeah.
does that fit in the mix with rugby?
That was a World Masters game. It was for athletes, and they had all kinds of different events in all kinds of athletic fields. But we played rugby, which was 35, so it was 35 and up. We formed a team, and we played against other teams 35 and up from the world who came to play against us. We ended up winning a bronze medal on that one. But it was a compilation of us guys in my age range getting on the phone to each other. Hey, you want to play for this? You want to go? Yeah, I'll play. And then it coincided with a hiatus that we had from Corner Gas, so I was able to zip over, province jump over for the week and play some World Masters.
Nice.
And it was excellent. It was kind of like getting the band back together. Because we had a lot of former First Division players and champions and provincial champions, so we were kind of like an elite, an older elite team, which was so much fun. It was awesome.
Like that. I want to ask you, what is the best advice that you ever got?
The best advice I ever got was from Dr. David Edwards. And it's kind of applicable to a lot of different things. If you find something that you want to do, get the best training in that area that you can get. And there's many ways to get that training. It's either by mentoring, finding someone who's doing it and shadowing them, asking them questions, following them, see them do their work, and asking them how they got to be where they are. And yeah, just make sure you have the passion for it and the love for it.
What do people get wrong about the film industry?
I think what most people get wrong about the film industry is that all actors are millionaires or they make a ton of money. And it's like, you know what? I think overall, what's the number I heard? 1%, 2% of actors in the business, the entire business, get those $1 million paychecks, and those are the A-list actors who get that kind of rate. The rest, the 98% of actors do 2-day gigs here and there, walk-ons. They're plying their craft any way they can, and those are the acting ones. Those are the actors who work stage and film and radio and all these other things, and they direct there's a lot of different fields that people go into, because acting alone, unless you're very lucky and you happen to be in the right place at the right time with the right look of the season, then you can make a good living at it. But I would say young actors who come in who get cast in a series, and they think because I've had this, I'm in a series, yay, it'll last forever. No, all series ends and life goes on, and then people don't hire you as much, and then you just make sure you manage your finances as best you can, because you don't want that rearing up. Take advantage of it. Don't get blindsided by the light and the recognition and all that kind of stuff.
So what draws you to a project when a project comes?
When a project comes, the first thing I'd like to do is read the script and see what the story is about. And then I like to see, then try and understand it and see, and then I try and picture myself what I can bring to it and what challenges it brings for me. Like, what am I going to learn in this? Is this a character that I played numerous times and it's like, you go through the Rolodex, I could do it for the paycheck, or I could do it for this challenge, or is it going to challenge me? And that's what I look for, is the challenge. I've never done it. Like any Shakespeare I would jump at, because doing Shakespeare is good, hard work. And to make it sing, it's just a great challenge, and I always look for that.
What is your favorite film that you've seen, or one of your favorite films?
Oh, one of my favorite films. It was, and I'm trying to remember the name with it, but it was with Anthony Quinn. It was a black and white, and it was also this woman. I don't remember her name, but she was a blonde woman, curly hair, and he was a brute. And she was this innocent, but it was the way she portrayed it, and I didn't even know it at the time, but it was kind of like she was this innocent clown type spirit that she was playing. Her character was very clownish, very innocent, and he was a brute, and and it was just such a beautiful, beautiful film. I just wish I could remember the name of it.
We will look it up.
Yeah.
And we will find it on IMDb, and I'll put a link in the description for wherever we end up posting.
It was one of the most emotional, moving films I saw that it stayed with me, left an impression. I went, wow.
Well, this seems like a fit to go here. I know we talked about Dr. David, but is there anybody else who inspired you to be an actor?
As I was learning the craft, there are a few people, and one of them just passed recently. It was my mentor and good friend, James DeFelice. And what I loved about Jim was his passion, his breadth of knowledge of everything. He was an instructor at the University of Alberta. He was a professor there in the theater department. So he taught directing, playwriting. He knew it all. And he could tell you exactly where someone was who graduated 20 years ago in his tenure. He could say, oh, so-and-so's at this theater doing this thing, and that person's over there doing that. So he kept his eye on, kept a pulse on what other BFA graduates were doing. And just his willingness to share his knowledge was just something I'll never forget, and I'm forever grateful for having bumped into him into my life, because he was a very generous man, and we were both born January 6th, so we had birthday comrades. But his passion for the art is in the craft of acting and directing and theater and just being a performer and artist is it was very moving, and yeah, I love him and I miss him.
You share January 6th birthday with quite there's a strange number high number of people. Can you say who else you share the birthday with?
My scene partner on Corner Gas, Tara Spencer-Nairn, fellow left-hander. She's a bit younger, but we're born the same date. But yeah, she's another one of my birthday compadres that I phone up on our birthdays and make sure she's being treated properly.
Car number 2.
And feted. And she's always car number 2, so she can try as hard as she wants. But
what makes you angry?
What makes me angry are rude people. People with no sense of other people, who are just self-absorbed and rude. If they don't recognize someone trying to be nice to them, then they can just leave the room.
Okay.
That's a nice way of saying it.
I don't want to set you off here into this. I can feel.
Yeah.
I can feel. I feel the feels.
Yeah.
So how about we move on?
Yeah.
Do you have a childhood celebrity crush?
Childhood celebrity crush. I think me and about 45 million other people were all about one of the Brady sisters. From the Brady Bunch. Jan or the other one, Marcia.
How about people you'd like to trade places with for a day?
Oof.
Who would that be?
Who would that be? I don't know. Who would I want to trade places with? I couldn't tell you. It might be somebody like an athlete or something, but not before the biggest game, because then if I get their skills, then yeah, somebody in a championship game, I'd love to be a part of that. Like,
what about Al Sharon and his giant?
Oh, Jesus. Captain Al Sharon of the Canadian rugby fame. His hand was like 2 of mine, and I got a picture where his one hand covered my whole face.
Yeah, that was funny. I was standing there. You asked him, "Can you put your hand on my face?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "What are you doing?" And then realized it covered your entire face.
Right, so there's this big,
it was like alien.
There's like this big hand there, and I'm like, hey.
Oh, and that wine glass he was holding, it looked like a thimble.
Yeah, he had a little big goblet and he's like,
Aside from Al Sharon's hand on your face, chancing that, what is the biggest risk you ever took?
oh, biggest risk I ever took?
And marrying me, aside from that.
That was the best gift I ever got. The biggest risk I would say would be I was learning how to saying yes to being a TV host, to host a talk show, which I'd never done before, but I said yes and then questioned and regretted myself ever since because I had no idea and I couldn't ask anybody because I didn't know anybody who was a TV host. And so I spent a lot of that prep time trying to, the show is going on, it's being built, and this is happening, and this is going on, and I'm going like, what do I do? And it was finally the day before we were going to shoot our first episode, and I was just stressed right out, freaked right out. Everyone's got their jobs, and I'm kind of like, what do I do? Oh, you just read this monologue. And I go like, how, why, how do I do it? And then one of my directors, one of the floor directors kind of pulled me aside and he said, you know what? It's all you got to think about is like putting on a persona. It's like, you think Johnny Carson's the same on camera as he is off camera? I go like, no, I heard that he's a reclusive type guy and likes to be by himself. And he goes, exactly. But when he's on camera, can you tell? I go like, no. He goes, that's his persona. And I went, oh. So I very quickly had to come up with this high beat energy, which helped a lot, which took the pressure off. And I was able to throw myself into it and go, okay, I'll just keep up in this persona, this energy, and yeah. And it worked. So it was great advice. And it was high risk because it was live to tape. So 200 people come to see a car crash, basically, sitting in the audience, and you're trying these jokes that were written by other writers, and my job is to make them funny. So I got to tell these bad jokes somehow, and that's almost funny. So it was like,
so
ooh.
Writing's important.
Writing's very important.
And what, aside from terrible jokes and bad writing that you have to try to make funny, what annoys you the most?
Selfish people, selfish actors, selfish people who don't consider others it's not that hard to be nice. And it may take a bit of work for some people to be non-selfish. To be unselfish is the word. To be unselfish, to think of others, to see if you can help somebody else who, that's why I've always got time to say hi to people. People who recognize me, I'll always make time to say, hey, hi, I recognize them as another human being and say, hey, how are you? Nice to see you. Because you could make the day, you have no idea what they're going through. They could be having the worst day of their life, and all you got to say is hi and take a second to acknowledge them and see them, and that could make a big difference. And I've had that experience too as well.
Oh, I'm tearing up thinking of some of the things that we've received from people about somebody having brain surgery or losing somebody.
Yeah.
Like this last year for us has been really hard, and I think about how much having distraction and smiles and things helps you through the toughest times, and it's been quite profound reading the effects that your work has had on so many people. It's quite a privilege. So you've kind of already answered, I think, this a little bit, but what do you think's an important trait for an actor to have?
Curiosity and fearlessness. There's two. But if you're going to go with either one, I would say curiosity. Always be curious. Always go, how does this work? How can I do this? How can I make this better? How can I make the story come alive more? What can I do? Be curious. And research, because then that way it keeps your projects fresh. You get more knowledge by keeping abreast of science and politics and fashion and all these things. Just stay curious. Science.
What's your favorite curse word?
Or you bleep them all out.
Okay, you're not going to say it in full then.
Nope.
What is a luxury you can't live without?
A luxury I can't live without would be chocolate. I love chocolate.
Okay.
Chocolate bars, chocolate muffins, chocolate scones, big chunk of chocolate, 70% chocolate, 80% chocolate.
Okay, we're running out of. Okay, how about who is a person that you'd like to meet?
Alive or dead?
Either.
I would like to meet. I would like to meet and spend some time with. I don't know if I'd like him in person. I was thinking Charlie Chaplin, but I don't know if I'd like him in person, knowing what I know about him, what I've read about him. I don't know if I could, but Red Skelton. I'd like to meet and hang out with Red Skelton.
Is there a show that you'd like to guest star on, or shows?
Oh, there's a bunch of shows. I wouldn't mind anything by, these days it turns out to be Taylor Sheridan's written a lot of the shows that I like. Landman. I'd love to hang out with Billy Bob Thornton as well. Because he's, again, I had one scene with him and he was just a generous guy to work with on Fargo season 1.
And what happened in that scene?
Well, he was in that scene, Billy Bob was playing a dentist. And I was in his chair and he was drilling. So the episode opens with the camera starting inside of my mouth. And I was really lucky because the camera operator is a friend of mine from Corner Gas, Daryl Hartwell. And he's on a camera and he goes, "Hey, buddy." And I go, "Hey." And he goes, "We want to start you in the chair." And I said, "Yeah, okay." He says, "What do you think about shooting inside your mouth?" And I went, "Let's do it." And he goes, "Okay." So he gets on the extender stuff and they put it, and they start in the back of my throat, and the camera pulls out and pulls out, and there I am in the chair.
We get a very close look at your uvula.
Yeah. But yeah, Billy Bob was great, and they had an actual dentist on standby as a consultant. So Billy Bob was there. He says, "What can I do? What can I do that makes it look like I'm doing some dental work?" And the guy comes in, and I don't know who the guy was, but he brought he had an entourage, this dentist consultant. So he shows up with his wife and kids and a couple other people behind him to watch him work on set, because now he's a star, right? So he comes in there and he goes, "Well, you got to do this. You got to put on the mask and the shield, and you got to wear these gloves." And so I'm lying there and I'm going, there's a mask covering my face, and then the shield on top of that as well. And then he's got these gloves and he's have this thing that's covering and I'm just kind of like, I'm not going to be under, and it's not my scene, so I'm just kind of biding my time to find the right time to say to the director, "I'm not wearing any of this gack." There's no way, and that's a polite word, gack. But Billy Bob was kind of like, he goes, I'm not going to do that. I'm not really filling teeth. You know that, right? I just need something that looks like it. There's a blue light. He says, "What if I just tap this blue light around with that?" And he goes like, "Yeah, well, I guess you can do that. But if you want to put the metal frame over the clip of the tooth," he goes, "I'm not doing that. I'm not going to clip this metal tooth thing on a actor's." He says, "No, I'm just going to tap this blue light around and then we'll say our lines, and then then he can spit and rinse." And I go like, "Yes, thank you, Billy. I'll do that." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, but you should wear the shield and the mask and stuff." And I go, "Oh, yeah." So he leaves, and I go to the director. I go, "I'm not wearing any of this stuff. You're covering up my face. Why am I on camera if I'm not going to see my face?" So I said, "No, I'm just going to let Billy Bob do the blue lights and tap around a bit, and that'll be good."
And have Daryl get close in
Yeah.
on your uvula
Yeah,
and your molars, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So it was great. It was great. Billy Bob put in. We're not really filling teeth. I just need something to look like I'm doing something. So he was very cool. Very cool, generous cat too.
So
he was very nice.
I mentioned the show, but then who'd you, a show you'd like to be on, but who'd you like to work with that you haven't worked with yet? Who's somebody?
Yeah, Michael Fassbender has always intrigued me. He's a very intense actor. I would love to work with him. He's one of my favorite. And Peter Dinklage is the other guy I'd love to work with. so much fun, such a dedicated professional. Like all the films I've seen him in, he's just brilliant. So he's one of my favorite actors.
I wanted to ask you one of the best things about where we live here in Squamish.
One of the best things about living in Squamish or in and around here is all the access to the trails and the rivers and all the eagles, seeing eagles almost every day when we go out for a walk by the river. It's just the perfect place to be. I love it. It's so, because I love being in nature and I love being around cedar trees and I love being around rivers and yeah, so that's the best part about it, is seeing this beautiful scenery and being able to be amongst it and just be.
And you may feel you've already answered this before, but I have this question down that we came across was, what is your best memory on stage, TV, film? I can pick one. What's your favorite?
One of my best memory. I think it's when I did a play in Denver in front of there was 1,200 seat theater. It was sold out. The show was rave reviews. There was a lineup to get tickets for our show. There were 21 of us on stage telling this story, and the house was full, and we got standing ovations from our first preview until we closed. So every night there was a standing ovation. It was that kind of a beautiful, brilliant show, and everyone was so invested and putting their heart and soul into telling this story. And but there's one point, I think it was in our first week, it was very hectic. It was very stressful because we were in our tech week, which that's when on stage, that's when you test all the lights, the sound cues, wardrobe, costume changes, lines, scene changes, the whole thing. You run the show from top to bottom with an eye on making sure everything works smoothly. And so you do a tech run, you do a tech week, and then you do a couple of studio invited audiences. So you have a test audience basically, and because you could stop and start again at any point, and the audience is aware of it as well. So if something goes horribly wrong, we can stop and start, and the audience goes, oh, well, that's live theater, that's how it goes. So we had that week, and then we had the week of opening, and which is also stressful because you're rehearsing still bits in the day and then doing the show at night until you have your official opening. And then once you have your official opening, then all the rehearsal stops, and whatever you got set at that point, that's what you do carrying forward until you close. And so we did the rehearsal in the day, the show, and we had a week of previews. So we had a rehearsal in a day, show at night, rehearsal in a day, show at night, all the way for the rest of the week. And then the first week after we opened, which was also a big energy release and exhaustion and hype and just a lot of excitement and stuff, about midway through the week, we haven't had a day off. We haven't had a day off yet that meant anything, right? So we're just, everyone's tired. And this particular show, everything went awkwardly wrong. Like the audience couldn't tell, but on stage things were happening to me. Like every scene I was in, something funny happened, something odd. I was sitting, and this one guy, we were sitting cross-legged, and this guy's wearing a breechcloth, and he gets up to leave, very angry. He gets up to leave, but he's standing on the back of his breechcloth, and he only gets up halfway and then rolls over backwards, loses his balance, gives me the full moon. And I'm like, oh my God, that's okay. Composure, because the audience is looking at me, and he's like hiding because no one can see his face, but he's like kind of laughing. He goes off. Next scene comes up, my buddy Greg Cruz is coming at me. He's playing a commander, and I'm one of his corporals, and I'm standing there, and he looks at me, and he goes, you go with Corporal, and he looks at me, and his eyes go like he's upstage looking at me, the audience is behind him looking at me, and he's like, you could tell that he totally forgot my name, didn't know who I was, but he goes, go with the corporal here, and he's looking down, and he starts chuckling a bit. Which makes me chuckle a bit, so I go upstage to hide my face a little bit, and then I see two of my friends there playing other soldiers, and their heads are down, and you could just see their shoulders starting to go. So I went, no, I can't crack. So I held it together, and then another scene, Ned Romero playing the lead character, comes down the back and he gives a loud cheer. Ah, okay! And as he lets out his hoka, his voice cracks, and then all of a sudden he sounds like a super rooster. Okay! Ah, hey! And so that set us off laughing a bit. And then at one point, he in the middle of the play, this is where it all culminated to this point where he's on stage and he saw something he thought was hilarious, and everyone is already on the verge of laughing hysterically. And then he looks, and these dead people with like arrows in them are laughing on the floor, and all the arrows start jiggling up and down. And Ned thought it was the funniest thing he saw in his life. He just doubles over and he's just laughing now. And his scene partner's there, he's laughing, and tears are coming down his face, and Ned's doubled over laughing, all the arrows are laughing. Then the audience, the house starts to laugh. And they start laughing hilarious, and the laughter just grows and grows. And then I'm up on I'm about 4 feet off the stage deck on this mountain outcrop, and I'm in my costume, my wardrobe, and I'm rattling because I'm laughing really hard too, and tears are coming down, and the whole audience is laughing, and then all Ned says is, "Your turn." And the lights come up on my spot, and I'm there, I'm shaking, I'm jiggling, and everyone is laughing. The house is just splitting themselves laughing at this point. So I just use calm down. I got to bring everyone down, and everyone stops laughing, and everyone gets the composure back, and I look around and I go, okay. I say my line. My next line was, "No, I will not come down." I say that line, and some guy in the front row goes, "I don't blame you." And then we all lost it again. The huge uproar of laughter, and it was just like, that's live theater. And we just rolled with it, and again waited for it, and then we just went on with the show, and it made it a challenge, because then we had to get back to the seriousness of it. But we were able to pull it off, and the house enjoyed it, and everyone else had a good story to tell afterwards. But I've never had that happen where everyone in the building is laughing hysterically. It was just infectious. Mass hysteria, I guess. But it was, it was quite memorable.
Well, midway or partway through that story, I don't know if you felt the lights change. The backlight battery went.
Oh, good to know.
There's a reason why we'll consider this. We've been at this a bit.
Yeah.
So I didn't get through all the questions.
Ooh.
There's still more.
Oh boy.
But there were some that I realize are a bit doubled up in a way,
Yeah,
like as the flow starts going,
Yeah.
because we just decided to do this.
Yeah.
Just people want to know, and
Yeah.
I have so many more questions for you, and I
Yeah.
think other people will too. So is there anything else? Because since the backlight's gone, maybe it's telling us something,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you're feeling. Are you
Yeah.
feeling you're kind of...
Yeah, I'm pretty yapped out.
Yeah, so we'll stop here, but
Yeah.
we'll do more of these, and then anything that anyone has any questions
Yeah, if
about.
anybody out there has a particular question they want me to answer, drop it in our comments section, and we'd love to get to it, and we'll answer it in the next one.
And sign up for the email list. You go to lornecardinal.com, and when you land there, you may have to scroll down a little if you put your email in.
Mm-hmm.
We may have some live events coming up where we'll do some Zooms, and then you can ask questions live there, and then we'll be building on more. But I think that's kind of a...
Well, I appreciate everyone's time. I hope you guys stayed for the ride. And thanks very much for joining us for this Get to Know Lorne Better.
And one last uncomfortable ask for you. You know what to ask for the YouTube channel is...
I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and if you did, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.
All right. And there's the cat is on my lap. Clarice is purring.
It's her feed time. Yeah.
I will.
Okay.
We'll press stop. Thank you. Yay.
Yeah, yay.
Thanks,
Good job,
sweets.
Ooh.
And off.